What's up, Grand Rapids, Michigan? How you guys doing?
Jesse, fantastic. So great to be with you, Jesse. We've got a great group of Americans here that care deeply about the country. They're all out here tonight because they want to show that they know that this election is going to be determined right here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They're going to make a difference. Let's hear from you now. Who's going to win in 2024? Trump!
All right.
I wish every American could see President Trump the way we've seen him the last 6 months. He's genuinely exceedingly funny. But as you know, Jesse, the best comics are really smart people, highly intelligent and highly perceptive, and they know their audiences. And I think President Trump's been amazing. Your monologue on the front about how the media doesn't understand humor. President Trump is fantastic, but when he's making those points, he's also making a point, and he understands the pain points of America. He understands how his policies for America were great, and he understands how under Joe Biden we're no longer at peace in the world, and we no longer have prosperity in our country.
All right, folks. So it looks like Trump has made his VP pick, and it is going to be North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, which is really funny to think about considering we spent the entire GOP primary cycle memeing him and making jokes about his eyebrows, and apparently those memes have now elevated him to being Trump's running mate most likely. So Doug, all I have to say is you're welcome, buddy. But in all seriousness, I want to talk today about why I believe the signs are strongly leaning to it. It seems obvious at this point that Doug Burgum, A, is going to be the VP, and then B, what do I think about him? Because I think a lot of conservatives have mixed views on Doug being the vice president. Some people want Vivek, some people want someone else. Some people will say Doug Burgum is a cultural liberal or he's a Bill Gates sellout. We'll address all those rumors and try to give you a balanced, fair opinion on that today. But first, why do I say that it seems obvious that Doug Burgum is going to be the VP? So if you go in right now to Google and type in trumpburgum.com, check out where it very conveniently redirects to. And yeah, there you have it. It redirects right to Donald Trump's campaign website. Now, a lot of people are saying that's obvious. He's the VP. I mean, look, it redirects right to the site. Now, in fairness, though, what I will say, and maybe this is consolation to people who don't necessarily want Doug, is that anyone can take a open website and just have the URL redirect to the Trump website. So this doesn't necessarily mean that the Trump campaign set this up and did this. And maybe more indication of that is some of you might type in trumpburgum.com right now and it might not work. You'll just get like a blank error page. And then other people, it goes right to donaldjtrump.com. And that actually just happened for me live a couple of times. Like sometimes I type it in, it goes to the site. Sometimes it doesn't work. So again, that might be something to consider. The real reason I think it's obvious right now that Doug Burgum has been confirmed in Trump's inner circle as the VP pick is when you combine the website news with what you've been seeing from Doug Burgum on the campaign trail. I mean, just look at this. Look at the type of things he's doing, the type of things he's posting right now. He is acting and behaving like the vice president. There's a reason he's taking so many TV interviews. There's a reason he seems to be taking the most campaign stops right now of all Donald Trump potential VP hopefuls. To me, I combine those two things. I look at the fact that he has recently changed his Twitter profile to look like a national candidate. I combine all that and say, look, guys, it's probably going to be Doug Burgum.
And this is why we've got to have President Trump back in the office. President Trump, who's strong. He's the first one that understood that China was an issue. You were part of that administration. We were tough on China. And I think about, what he's done, whether it's tariffs or whether it's standing up to China on the border and on fentanyl. I mean, all of this just screams that we've got to have President Trump back in the office. I mean, can you imagine Joe Biden trying to solve this problem?
I mean, yes, in theory, this could be another VP tryout. Trump is sort of sending him out there to see how he does, and he's not sure yet. But we also got to consider the RNC is now less than a month away. Trump does not have a lot of time to make his decision. And so it seems to me, if this is what Doug Burgum is currently doing at this time in the year, it's obvious, right? He's got to be the VP. I could be wrong there. Maybe we get a 5D, switcheroo at the last moment. But again, I think a lot of you guys would agree with me. This right now, folks, this that you're seeing on your screen, this is the behavior of a running mate about to be announced. I mean, let's just be obvious about that.
Well, he's out talking to real Americans about the challenges that affect everybody. And when I say everybody, they affect Democrats, independents, and Republicans. The thing you talked about, Jesse, whether it's the open border, whether it's the fentanyl that's pouring into our country, whether it's migrant crime that's occurring, whether it's inflation, whether it's high interest rates, these aren't partisan issues. These are affecting everybody in America who's trying to work and put food on the table, gas in their car. He's talking to real Americans about the issues that matter the most to them. I think that's fantastic debate prep.
Now, that said, assuming this is all true and assuming Doug is indeed the VP, how do we feel about it? Well, I know that the immediate comment I'm going to get a million times is, this is terrible. I wanted it to be Vivek Ramaswamy. And I said many times months ago, I said it's probably not going to be someone like Vivek. Why? Because I think the logic that Trump is applying here is that he just kind of wants a safe VP pick, right? Someone that A, won't drag him into scandal because they're a relatively clean, polished, articulate person that just won't get Trump into trouble. And then B, maybe someone also that softens Trump's image with independents in the suburbs a little bit, etc. And I think if you want to talk about that criteria, we'll talk about, how conservatives feel, how the base feels in a second. But on that criteria alone, I do indeed think Doug Burgum is a pretty solid VP choice if that's the type of thing you're going on, right? He's articulate, he is not super radical, or he's not a big-time loudmouth. Again, he's just a safe guy you can have on the ticket, might boost you a little bit, but mainly also just won't cause you a whole ton of problems. He tends to be likable, so maybe, again, if you want to soften the rambunctious image of Trump, that's a pathway to go down. But of course, there's the alternative logic that says, well, how is Doug Burgum on the issues? Because just to be clear, guys, the VP does not have an instrumental role in running the country. So one could arguably make the case that putting someone like Vivek Ramaswamy that everyone loves in an actual, valid working cabinet position would do a lot more for the Trump administration. But a lot of people seem to have this misconception that the VP and the vice president are side by side running the country. And in reality, that's not really how it goes, especially these days. But still, regardless, I think it is a valid point to bring up. Yes, how is Doug Burgum on the political issues? Because it is indeed possible, considering that Trump would only get one term, and usually the VP is kind of the front runner for the next nomination, that Doug could be someone to succeed Donald Trump. And to be frank and to concede a bit to the base's criticisms of Burgum, that is a weak spot of the North Dakota governor here, right? Because he is kind of a moderate, especially a cultural moderate. He's been criticized a lot throughout the years for not taking a hard enough stand on social conservative issues. He had this whole thing a couple years ago where he was trying to stop some transgender bills from passing, but apparently, I just researched it, he ended up signing them in the end, but there's a whole drama. A lot of conservatives say he's weak, he's too moderate. And in fairness, I would also say that is a good thing for Trump's ticket, because that way you can take the culture war off the table. And even on the front of being relatively moderate and palatable on cultural issues that could otherwise be divisive, Doug Burgum has a pretty clean record there. I don't expect this VP pick to exactly tank him with independent voters. But yes, at the same time, Doug Burgum, yes, is not someone we necessarily want to succeed Donald Trump after him. He's not that strong on the social issues. Some people have brought up that he took money from Bill Gates or something back in the day, and so they, criticize that. And again, I think these are all valid criticisms. The guy, as a Republican governor, not exactly the most conservative, not exactly the most strong. And so that's going to have to be something that's a bit of a balancing act, assuming that this news is true, which it really, again, seems like it is, which is, yes, is Doug Burgum a strong potential asset in getting Donald Trump elected? I would say yes. He fulfills sort of all of those electability criteria. But at the same time, is he someone that we want to take over? No. The good news, though, however, is I don't think that Doug Burgum is such a strong or imposing political force where he may necessarily even be the front runner for the nomination in 2028, right? I'm sure there's going to be a demographic of Trump supporters that just says, hey, he was the vice president, we might as well nominate him. But really, he doesn't come off like strong presidential material. I think that the other candidates will largely succeed in bringing him down if he does try to run for the nomination in the future, because they'll say, look, Doug, you're weak on the issues, et cetera, et cetera. You know, what about this? What about Bill Gates? I really do think that'll land. And so we don't really have to be necessarily worried that, oh my gosh, Doug Burgum is going to take over for Trump. Of course, unless they do something to Trump during his presidential term. But I think we're hoping and praying that it doesn't necessarily come to that. So yeah, that's, again, my fair and balanced opinion on this is, yes, on the one hand, I understand the basis criticisms. I would not want the guy to be president. On the other hand, I also understand why Trump is choosing him as the running mate for practical reasons. And I think on those practical criteria, Doug Burgum is a good pick because he's just safe. There's not a lot of scandal around him. He's articulate. He's likable. He's moderate. What else could you ask for usually by conventional logic in terms of a VP? So with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Are you disappointed that it's not someone like Vivek or JD Vance, someone that the base really wants? Or do you kind of understand the logic here? Or how do we feel about all this, right? Let me know, but until next time, be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Alpha moves only, God bless, have a very great weekend, and peace.